day, too, don't we? So, I don't know whether I'm seeing their illness or my illness. Any of you ever been confused by how confusing we are? So if I don't remember that they're very ill, then I'm going to be judging them. And if I'm judging them, I can't help them. And if they're acting out in a way that I would feel like I had a right to judge them, they're probably acting just like me, because that's the only way I could comprehend that kind of insanity. Does it make sense? Okay. So life will take on new meaning to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. They use the words they mean, and they mean the words they say. 100 of them agreed on every single word. They argued over them with a dictionary and a thesaurus. They didn't say, this is a sight you must not miss. They said to see a fellowship go on about you, but this is an experience you must not miss. How many of you have had your eyes opened as a result of the process? So do you see differently? Do you hear differently? Eyesight without insight is spiritual blindness. If you've been through the process, you're no longer spiritually blind as long as you stay awake. Does it make sense? Okay, we know you'll not want to miss it. So those of you who have not had that experience, we know you'll not want to miss it. It's not enough to read the book. It's not enough to quote the book. We got to do what it says. You can quote the book. You can eat the book. You can shit alphabet soup. You will still die in addiction if you don't do what it says, and you belong here. Does that make sense? Okay, so perhaps you're not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. Do you think that's true in Phoenix, Arizona today? How many of you have been surprised by meeting people that do not seemingly want to recover in places that is a little weird to find them? So you're going to learn to discern what's going on, right? So you can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. They'll be only too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or a reformer. Why'd they suggest that? Did you hear, Sean? All of us start out as evangelists or reformers. And they learn through their experience it's not effective. Don't tell them about your God, show them your God. Don't tell them about the evils of alcohol, tell them about the flow of the Spirit. Tell them about deliverance. Does it make sense? Okay. So unfortunately, a lot of prejudice exists. You'll be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent, and you can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens that because of your own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. Now, they're assuming at this point I'm properly armed with the facts about myself. What I was like, what happened, what I'm like now. Telling you what a drunk I was and trying to have a gnarlier story than you is not of any value to anyone. It's not what it was like, however many times we've said that in the fellowship. It's what I was like. I was hopeless. I was selfish. I was full of condemnation for myself and the rest of you. And I encountered this power, and bam, I was never like that again. I've not been perfected by any means, but I'm not that guy. I'm a new man today. Make sense? And it comes with power. Any of you feel a little power with that? That's a testimony from a podium, right? To let people know who I am and whose I am and how I discovered it. Okay, so it says cooperate, never criticize, to be helpful is our only aim. When you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. How would I do that?
Listen to him.
I like that. How many of you have been talked to or talked at and you were turned off? So let's not be that guy. Let's talk with them, and as Sean says, maybe we ought to listen to them. How many of you got here broken enough you just wished anyone would just give you the dignity of hearing you? Find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time trying to persuade him. You might spoil a later opportunity. Who is the persuader? Alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, much more persuasive for. I can't compete with that. If you like heroin, I'm not trying to compete. I like heroin too. Wasn't tough enough to ride that train. It bucked me. Anyone else? So we're not trying to persuade them. That's alcohol's job. We're here to show them redemption when we finally admit defeat. Okay, so they should be patient. Oh, you may spoil a later opportunity. This advice is given for his family. Also, they should be patient, realizing they're dealing with a sick person. They don't know necessarily they're dealing with a sick person. That's where we're uniquely useful to the family. I was once as hopeless as your loved one is. Believe me, if God sent me to them, I can assure you God has a plan for him, because God doesn't send me out to treat hangnails. True? So, realizing that they're dealing with a sick person, if there is any indication he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife, get an idea of his behavior, his problems, his background, the seriousness of his condition, and his religious leanings. You need this information to put yourself in his place to see how you would like him to approach you if the tables were turned. Very old wisdom. Treat people as you would have been treated or you would like to be treated, not what you think they deserve. And do not perpetuate bad habits that you learn from somebody else. See what they believe, get informed in the Spirit, and then treat them accordingly. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, and you're going to have to talk to the Spirit to see what they can hear. Right? Because not everyone can hear the same approach. How many of you come here with a religious leaning, faith-based? Somebody's here with it, right? And so you guys speak in one language. How many of you are strictly recovery, no religion? You guys got a language all your own too, but we're talking about the same power. And this power brings cultures together in spite of language. So we need to find out what language we're speaking, because it's not always the amen chorus we're talking to. Right? And it's also not always the religious people get dusted for the recovery people. We don't ignore anyone here. Half the original fellowship were religious, the other half were atheists or agnostics. And yet this power brought them together. Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump from there to 91, middle of the page, because most of us are going to meet people, at least initially, in meetings or in more common places rather than seeking them out, and then we might get more energetic after that. But it says, see your man alone if possible. How many of you that are engaged, who's been blessed with a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps and is now endeavoring to work with others? A bunch of you. Okay. So how do you see your man alone or your woman alone?
Get in the car.
Sean kidnaps him. Anybody else? Another plan? Right. Meeting after the meeting before the meeting. Invite them to participate, have a chat. Anybody tried any of those methods? Okay. So at first, engage in general conversation. What's that look like? Haven't seen you here before. You new to the area? What do they usually hear? Come on, be honest. You guys know what they usually hear. What do they usually hear? Got a sponsor yet? Read the verse under 64 pages. Don't know nothing about him. Cat came in to use the bathroom. All of a sudden, right? So right away you're set apart because you didn't assume, you didn't judge the situation. Simply because you found him in the pond doesn't make him a duck. After a while, turn your talk to some phase of drinking. Tell him enough about your drinking habits, symptoms, and experiences to encourage him to speak of himself. Where did I learn about my drinking habits, symptoms, and experiences? Some of it I learned in the bars, but I was dying in the bars. It wasn't until I encountered AA's program that I learned the facts about me. True? And then 4 showed me a whole bunch more, right? Yeah. So if he wishes to talk, let him do so. You'll thus get a better idea of how you ought to proceed. So same admonition. See how you'd like to be approached if the roles are reversed. If he tells you right away, I don't want to hear about any of that God stuff, say, okay. Let's talk about powers greater than us. Since no one gets here on a winning streak. Going to assume alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin had something to do with you coming here. You don't think you can do that on your own? Well, no. Okay, well, that's power greater than you. We'll start there. Right? Any of you finally realize you were whipped? Didn't need a lecture on alcohol or drugs, did you? Holy fuck, someone hold me down. Right? Okay, so if he's not communicative, give him a sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit, but say nothing for the moment of how that was accomplished. Why? Who's been here a minute? Done the steps? How was your sobriety accomplished, Jay? Because we didn't accomplish it. Or I lied and won. See, it doesn't matter about how it was accomplished. It matters who accomplished it. That's above my pay grade, how it was accomplished. But they're not ready to hear that just yet, which is why I'm not qualified to speak on how. If he's in a serious mood, dwell on the troubles liquor has caused you, being careful not to moralize or lecture. Any of you experienced trouble from liquor? So we're subject matter experts, right? Caused some trouble. What's it mean to not moralize or lecture? They need to understand that the hopeless get restored. And that I'm standing before them, once hopeless, now redeemed. And I'm here to tell you not how, but who, and that who sent me to you. So I'm just going to let them know that I know what they think no one knows. Because us in addiction, we know shit we don't think anybody knows. If his mood is light, tell him humorous stories of your escapades and get him to tell some of his. Any of you got humorous stories? Yeah, because if it was all not fun, we wouldn't have stayed out there so long, would we? How many of you got here and there wasn't nothing funny? So we ain't here to clown if that's not the mood. That's why you want to be in the Spirit, because it's an experience you do not want to miss. The Spirit will inform you how to approach if you'll take the time to ask. Power, peace, happiness, a sense of direction. Don't engage another for a healing without consulting the healer. Okay? That's why we had a 10 and 11. Pray, meditate, pray. Pause when agitated or doubtful. Pray, meditate, pray. And now we're ready. Yeah? Okay. So when he sees you know all about the drinking game, commence to describe yourself as an alcoholic. Tell him how baffled you were and how you finally learned that you were sick. How did you finally learn that you were sick? Sean believed him when they told him in detox he was sick. How many of you went to more than one detox? You thought, I think I overreacted. How many of you went to other institutions? How many of you still weren't done? So that makes a powerful testimony if we'll just tell them how baffled we were. Look, I don't seem to have any problems. I just have these unfortunate circumstances and misunderstandings. Okay. Give him an account of the struggles you made to stop and show him the mental twist which leads you to the first drink of a spree. We suggest you do this as we've done in the chapter on alcoholism. So they give me a challenge. They say, if he's alcoholic, he'll understand you at once. So now we're going fishing. In the chapter on alcoholism, they told us about a car guy named Jim. You guys familiar with that story? Jim didn't even drink till he was older, and he owned this car dealership. But as soon as he started drinking, he drank his dealership away. Any of you relate to have something given to you and just sort of pissed it away because it didn't seem quite as important as the next fix? So Jim comes into contact with AAs, and they tell him about his condition. He sobers up after a trip to the asylum, and he goes back to the dealership he once owned as an employee. And the book recounts that he was a little agitated. Any of you ever had to take a diminished job? And on your way to that job, the first day you might have been grateful, but by the second or third day, I got to train my boss. No? I'm the only one that's done any of that shit. So anyway, he's a little agitated, and when he gets there, he has a few words with this boss. Nothing serious. That's what he says. After a while, he decides that while he is at the dealership where people come to buy cars, he thinks he'll go out in the woods looking for people who want to buy cars. Come on, none of you have ever went to the dope house just to show the fellows how good you're doing? So that's Jim. So on his way out to these woods where car buyers who don't come to car dealerships hang out, he goes by a roadside place, and it's a restaurant, and he's eaten there many times, so no problem with him. He's not picking up no matter what. He's going to stop and have a sandwich and might find a car buyer in there, by golly. So now the car buyers are coming out, not out of the woods, but they're in the bars, they're everywhere. That's Jim's mindset. So he orders a sandwich and a glass of milk, and he eats the sandwich and he drinks the glass of milk, and then the thought suddenly came to him, I could pour whiskey in my milk and it wouldn't hurt me on a full stomach. How many of you had a serious alcohol addiction and thought, well, there's no reason I can't take a little fentanyl? I've never had a fentanyl problem. So it's not that ridiculous, is it? So anyway, he puts the whiskey in the milk and he pours it down, another sandwich. That experiment went so well, he had another. And another. Somewhere in there, the sandwiches and the milk went away. And he did another trip to the asylum. Some of you relate to Jim? If you're alcoholic, you'll understand it once. So we should go further, right? Because we're relating. Do you see how that fishing trip worked out? Got a whole net full now. Congratulations, you just caught alcoholism. But there is a solution. Okay, if you're satisfied that he's a real alcoholic, begin to dwell on the hopeless feature of the malady. So how would I know if they're a real alcoholic, and what the hell does that mean? Alcoholic's alcoholic, isn't it? Well, it might be if you hadn't read this book, but the program of recovery is in this book. It's not in any room, and they define precisely on pages 21 and beyond what a real alcoholic is. Have you read them? Yep. You want to read them again? Yeah. Go back to 21. Okay, so let's start on the bottom of 20 and work over. Moderate drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely. If they have good reason for it, they can take it or leave it alone. Yep. So how many of you, on further reflection, see perhaps you're moderate? Okay. Have you had more than a little trouble in leaving it alone entirely? Okay, so then if that's not me, if I've eliminated moderate, let's look at the baffling one. Then we have a certain type of hard drinker. He may have the habit badly enough to gradually impair him physically and mentally, and it may cause him to die a few years before his time. If a sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, change of environment, or the warning of a doctor becomes operative, this man can also stop or moderate, although he may find it difficult and troublesome and may even need medical attention. Where are they going to send that guy when he's drinking too much and he's injuring his health? They're going to send him to the same detox they sent me to. But I had lots of sufficient reason to stop or moderate. I had ill health. I had falling in love. I had all of those, and yet I drank through it. But his plan is just don't pick up no matter what. Go to meetings. Get a service commitment. And he doesn't know what I'm going through, and I don't know what he's going through because no sufficient. How many of you had that family member who just one day stopped? Why can't you be like old Uncle Billy? He just put the plug in the jug. Any of you ever heard that lecture? I'm like, fuck Uncle Billy. I'm dying here, right? Okay. So what about the real alcoholic? He may start off as a moderate drinker, Sean's case. He may or may not become a continuous hard drinker. So you may go from 0 to 100 without a ramp. Any of you have that happen? Where's my heroin addicts? We ramp up fast in that lane, don't we? I did that to solve my alcoholism problem. Made sense at the time. Okay, so he may or may not become a continuous hard drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. So it's always about a loss of control. How many of you suspected you'd lost control long before you're ready to admit you'd lost control? How many of you were hoping no one else noticed? So that's where it gets tricky. So now they're going to talk to you about you without telling you it's you. Because they always want to tell you about something outside of you and let you have your own discovery. I relate, right? So here's the fellow who's been puzzling you, especially in his lack of control. He does absurd, incredible, tragic things while drinking. Any of you? Exactly. He's a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Did any of you undergo a personality change? He's seldom mildly intoxicated. He's always more or less insanely drunk. Where's my drinkers? Any drinkers here? How many of you were insanely drunk but did not think yourself insanely drunk? So again, I can see clearly when you're insanely drunk. I never knew myself to be insanely drunk. How many of you have encountered someone who drank like you and they pulled off the act really good, but when you took them to the detox, their blood alcohol was like 3? So we're not terribly good judges of insanely drunk. Okay, so he has a positive genius for getting tight at exactly the wrong moment, particularly when some important decision must be made or engagement kept. Any of you ever get an opportunity, then go celebrate that opportunity and then miss the opportunity? So we recognize that right away. That wasn't an intentional thing. That's a tragedy. Sometimes people miss their custody hearings. They lose their freedom over it, right? So did we get enough? What about the real alcoholic? Now we know what they're talking about when they say, if we're sure they're a real alcoholic. I'm going to know because I'm going to feel the depths of their suffering when I'm talking to them. Yep. Okay. So if you're satisfied that he is a real alcoholic, begin to dwell on the hopeless feature of the malady. What is the hopeless feature of the malady? Stopping's not enough. The hopeless feature is abstinence doesn't work for me. Never has, never will. I have to have a substitution of dependence or I will not survive. Right? Okay. Show him from your own experience how the queer mental condition surrounding that first drink prevents normal functioning of the willpower. How many of you knew it wasn't safe? Changed your people, places, playgrounds, whatever that everyone told you to do, and somehow you kept showing up. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I came into a fellowship where they said, if you feel like drinking, think it through. Play the tapes. What they told me. Listen, that's a therapeutic approach. They teach them to do that in detoxes. I thought it through. But I'm this guy, not the hard drinker. I'm not mad at the hard drinker for being in the room, but I better listen to these guys because I'm not that guy. They get the DUI and they tie the two behaviors together. I will never drink and drive again. I don't tie those two behaviors together. Those fucking cops were stationed there just for the 4th time this week. How'd they know? So, I digress. Don't at this stage refer to this book unless he's seen it and wishes to discuss it, and be careful not to brand him as an alcoholic. Why? Doesn't matter what my opinion of his condition is. I proudly told you, of course I'm this way, I'm alcoholic. Had no idea the gravity of that admission. Of course I do this, I'm an addict. No idea what it meant. When I stand before you today and say, I'm Joe, I'm an alcoholic, I'm telling you, I am a man who's redeemed, because Joe the alcoholic wouldn't show up here for you. I'm not talking to you about a present condition. I'm talking to you about a miracle standing before you, just like Ebby did for Bill. Okay. So let him draw his own conclusion. If he sticks to the idea that he can still control his drinking, tell him that possibly he can if he's not too alcoholic. So we're not throwing him under the bus. Once again, we're trolling. None of us wants to be told we're not addict enough. We don't. As soon as you tell them, oh, well, you're not done yet, they will dive at your ankles. Wait, I forgot to tell you about the detox I went in when I was 13 and 15 and 17, and that little stretch in Florence. I've heard it. I don't have a problem with alcohol. Okay. Yet here you sit. God must be confused. But insists that if he's severely afflicted, there may be little chance he can recover by himself. Continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness, a fatal malady. Why? Because it is, and they're full of self-condemnation already. If they don't understand they're sick, they'll never seek a healer, and they'll never comprehend that that healer sent me to them for that healing. Right? Right now is your day, right? That's the good news this book brings. Okay, so talk about the conditions of body and mind which accompany it. What are those conditions of body and mind?
Once I start drinking, I can't stop, and I can't stay away from it because I get too much relief from it.
Do you hear them talking in everyday language instead of talking to them in Alcoholics Anonymous? Because if they've ever been in a recovery room, they've heard all about craving and obsession. They're like, oh no, one of those. But if they understand, I understand that you're doing it because you don't have any choice. And even if you don't know it, I know it. Then we can level the playing field. Keep his attention focused mainly on your personal experience, which is what Sean just helped us with. And explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament. How many of us know those stories? We've all met them. If we hung out here any length of time, we know lots of. Okay. So doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholic patients the whole story unless it'll serve some good purpose. But you may talk to them about the hopelessness of alcoholism because you offer a solution. You guys know the solution we offer? Because that's really been lost in modern fellowship. People think it's steps. People think it's sober houses. People think it's 90 meetings in 90 days. It's none of that stuff. The solution is the power within us. That is our common bond. And once we encounter someone in the Spirit, the signature of the Spirit will go before them, even though they may not know they are of the Spirit. Our job is to awaken them to that. God does not present anything to you without giving you the power to carry it out. Discern. Yes? Okay. So, but you may talk to him about the hopelessness of alcoholism because you offer a solution. You'll soon have your friend admitting he has many, if not all, the traits of an alcoholic. How many of you had to come to it a little slow? I have had some struggles. What was that one little thing? But maybe, let me learn a little more. How many of you didn't really know yourself to be an alcoholic and how hopeless that really made you until you'd been through the step process, tried to help someone else, and they showed you what powerless meant? We learn a lot more from the people we try and help than we ever learn from our own illness. Yes? So if his own doctor's willing to tell him he's alcoholic, so much the better. Even though your protege may not have entirely admitted his condition, he's become very curious to know how you got well. See, now he's ready. We've been fishing a minute. We've been dragging the lure over his head, and he's snapping. Yeah? Any fishermen here? Okay. Let him ask you that question if he will. What if he won't? Just keep talking. How many of you know the question's coming before it comes? How many of you work with enough people? You know it's coming. Because the Spirit tells us it's coming. So you know what works better than any amount of words I can say? Silence. I'm done testifying. What's happening within you? Right? Tell him exactly what happened to you. Wow, they put that in italics. They must want power. Right? Stress the spiritual feature freely. If a man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your conception of God. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. The main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself and that he live by spiritual principles. The reason he's going to agree to that, regardless, is I'm going to tell him exactly what happened to me, and when he feels it, I'll know, and I'll call it to his attention that I don't know how, but that was the who. I drank every day no matter what. I also had an opiate addiction. I never stopped unless they handcuffed me or carried me out on a gurney. I woke up more than once after an overdose, chained to a bed. I did it every day no matter what. They would have to get me walking and feeding myself again, and I'd go out and do it again. Every day, no matter what. I did it again and again and again, and one day I hit this power, and pow! It never, ever happened again. And that, what you felt, that's the power we call God. And it would make sense that we would improve consciousness of that. Because they're not going to remove my dependence. I'm going to change my dependence from synthetics to the real deal. Uncut stuff. Right? Okay. So, when dealing with such a person, you'd better use everyday language to discuss spiritual principles. So, it's a religious idea, God dwells in you, and a practical program of action to prove the power to you through you. Simple. That's what we got. Right? All right. I'm going to jump from there to, where are we at here? Let's go to 94. It says, outline the program of action explaining how you made a self-appraisal. Why would I want to do the steps if I want to help alcoholics, even if I come in from a religious lane and was radically transformed? Because I can help more people, and in religion or in recovery, the object is to help more people. So even if I don't think I need a step process, I can't show something that they may need unless I know how because of experience. So regardless of belief or transformation, learn the facts about yourself so you can show others. Well, you may have it. I've met religious people that are definitely in the Spirit, but they can't show anybody what they've had done for them. And our job in the church is to show everyone what's been done for us. Anyway. So, how you straightened out your past and now why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him. Why am I endeavoring to be helpful to him? Because I need my insurance. You're damn right. I mean, what will happen once I go and get my insurance premium paid is that at some time in that conversation, I'll be absent me, and I'll really be caring about them absent judgment. And I'll get more and more spaces of that perfect peace absent me in the conflicts in my thought life. Yes? It's important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. Why lie about it? I'm not here for anything you can do for me. I'm here because just by making this attempt, I get a flow of the Spirit. I always get more power than I need when I offer it to another. And I like power. Actually, he may be helping you more than you're helping him. Make it plain he's under no obligation to you. You hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. Why do I hope that for them? Because they will never experience the freedom I'm talking about until they use that experience to help another. That's why I hope it for you. It's not a rule. But if you're just going to dig up a bunch of crap and look at it and go, yeah, I did that, I did this, you're going to sit feeling bad about yourself. And once you go out and say, I did all those things you did, and that power lifted me out and sent me to you, just so you'd know that he meets you where you are, he sent me to tell you that. Right? So it suggests how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. Make it clear that he's not under pressure, that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to, and you should not be offended if he wants to call it off, for he's helped you more than you've helped him. So reminding me, they know I'm selfish, and they'll know that if I spend a lot of time with you and then you don't want to go through it with me, then I'm going to get some kind of way. Hope it works out for you. Any of you have ever worked with a few, you know what I'm talking about. But the fact is, what he did for me, other people couldn't do for me. He showed me my attachment to the result, and it was never mine to claim. And attachment is suffering. So he relieved me of suffering regardless of what he received. I went out there for my 12-step experience, not his. Because I'm human, I'm selfish. That's the way it is. Okay, so if your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you've perhaps made a friend. Maybe you've disturbed him about the question of alcoholism. This is all to the good. The more hopeless he feels, the better. He'll be more likely to follow your suggestions. Your candidate may give reasons why he need not follow all of the program. Any of you ever had that happen? Did you ever get to explain to him there is no all of the program? It's a manner of living. Well, and the seriousness of it is, guys, there is a spirit in you that wants you dead. And there's a spirit in you that wants to live. And I'm just here to help the one that wants you to live get rid of that one that wants to die. So I want to talk to you, set that guy over there that wants to die. Let me talk to the one that wants to live right now. Because light has eternal authority over darkness. If I can talk to him for a minute, darkness goes. Yes? Okay. So your candidate may give reasons why you need not follow all the program. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning. Any of you rebel at that? Look at A, baby. Which requires discussion with other people. Do not contradict such views. Tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you would have made much progress had you not taken action. Isn't that true? I once was scared to death of those steps on the wall. And finally someone said, look, Joe, get to God or get to God. I go, really? You're going to put it to me like that? Huh? And the steps are in order to get the things out of the way that are blocking my consciousness of that power within me. And I needed power desperately. So I once thought and felt exactly like you do, but I'm quite certain I would not have made much progress had I not taken action. And this is the action I took, and I experienced freedom as a result, just like the authors did. A new power, a new purpose, a new peace flowing from within me, and I've learned that what I thought was somebody's concept is a reality, and maybe the only reality. Right? On our first visit, tell him about the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Know how they weren't at all ashamed to say, this is our program, and then there's a fellowship. And they never conflated the two. In modern fellowship, we tell everybody they're in the program. No, you're not. You're in the fellowship. If you're not in the book, you're not in the program. And if you're not doing what it says, you're not in the program. Okay? If he shows interest, lend him a copy of this book. Unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he's likely to say you rushed him. So we're now watching how they respond to what we're doing with them. We take them as far as they're willing to go, and then we stop and just have a friendly conversation and go on and let the Spirit do the Spirit stuff, right? Okay, so I'm going to jump over now to page 97 because I'm going to run out of time. Page 97 and 96, they talked about people that are broken, homeless, and they're asking us for help. And we're sometimes conflicted whether we're really helping them or hurting them. Any of you ever wondered with addicts whether we were really doing any good for them when we're... Okay, so They told us last week that we were going to grow in understanding and effectiveness, so we're growing in understanding and effectiveness of when and how to help, right? So through prayer and meditation and now by active service, I'm now getting informed in the Spirit of what's really needed versus what they're telling me is needed. I'm not just hearing with these, I'm hearing with my vital sixth sense. I'm feeling where they're at. Yeah? Okay. So here we are. We're at that point. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you're doing the right thing if you assume them. How am I going to be sure? Confirm it with the Spirit. The Spirit will know what's up. Have you ever sat with somebody who's just crying like crazy, but you're not feeling them? Because they're not emoting. Have you ever sat with someone who wasn't crying, but you were crying? Because they were emoting. But they're not able. They're powerless to emote. It's your job to call their attention to who's carrying that burden for them right now. Give it to me. Right? Come on, you guys, a lot of you guys are doing this right now. You know what I'm talking about. Some of you are feeling. Who's feeling that? That's the power we call God around here. Okay, helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. What's the likelihood that your foundation can support your recovery without stone? Anyone want to take that risk? There's another book that says, don't build your foundation on sand. I want stone in my foundation. How important is that new guy to me if that's the stone in my foundation? There's no difference between his recovery and mine according to that. Yeah? Okay? Because who's really the foundation? The who? Yeah? Yeah, that's the cornerstone that the builders rejected, but that's another story. Okay. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You'll have to act the Good Samaritan every day if need be. Any of you know that story about the Good Samaritan? The religious couldn't help, the legalist couldn't help, but the Samaritan, who's not even supposed to talk to the man, he stops, he bandages his wounds, he puts him on his animal, he takes him to the inn, tells the innkeeper, here, keep him for a few days. When I come back, I'll settle his tab. He took responsibility for his neighbor in spite of cultural tribalism. So you may have to do that every day. You may confront your old ideas by helping somebody you don't think is worthy. Any of you had that? Who sponsored somebody who taught you something about the way you think? Everyone who's ever sponsored anybody. Right? Okay. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions to your business. It may mean sharing your money or your home. Counseling frantic wives and relatives. Innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Guys, the 9th step is a fitness step for the big amends, which is the 12th step. And they're setting you up. How many of you had somebody make innumerable trips to police courts, jails, and asylums for you? How many of you had people carry a message of hope to you you never met again, never saw again, but they came for you? That's a debt I cannot pay except forward. So they're prepping me to be spiritually fit enough to go into that scene without judgment. That's the reason this whole place was built, so that people who have been judged can have a new creation on a solid foundation without judgment. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. Your wife may sometimes say she's neglected.
Don't have one of those anymore.
Because you neglected her. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. You may have to fight with him if he's violent. Sometimes you'll have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally you'll have to meet such conditions. So in 3, they told me I had a new employer. Being all-powerful, he provides what we need if we do his work and keep close to him. They just told me what the job description was in order to do his work and keep close to him. Give freely of what I've found and join us. Right? Okay. So I'm going to jump from there to 98, because we talked that we would see this. Now I'm going to show it to you in the book. Last week, I'm going to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Now it says, first paragraph down, it's not the matter of giving that's in question, but when and how to give. How many of you had the experience of not giving them what they asked for, but giving them your time, your attention, tending to an immediate need. Okay, there's scriptural roots for that too. Silver and treasure I do not have, but what I do have, I offer you. Pick up your mat and walk. Right? Any of you? Oh, never mind. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. It's so important. We teach you to talk to you about the power we call God without a demonstration. And one of the ways we demonstrate it is quit meeting your needs when you can meet them. Just encourage you to get the fuck up and do it. Not being mean. Come on. What do you want to give me your glory? Instead of you getting up and give God the glory. Right? So we don't want to be the servant. How many of you had your needs met when you could not meet them? So we know it's true. How many of you have grown more faithful as time goes on just watching what happens? Of course. Okay, so he clamors for this or that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence on God. It's so important we not listen to their logical argument when they're dying in addiction. Just say, look, I've lost everything more than once. Even after having lost it, I still drank. So it wasn't the shit that kept me from drinking. And I've had it all back, and I've drank it all away. Yes. So it's all nonsense, and we all know the argument, and we all know the outcome, right? Okay, so it says, burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. How do I burn an idea into their consciousness? I'm going to have to be speaking to them in power. And then they'll know, because that's what burns into consciousness, the awareness of being aware. Something just happened here. What was it? I told you. The only condition is that you trust in God and clean house. So God sent me to you, and I'm here to help you clean house if you want to. And if you don't want to, we part friends. Right? All right. So I'm going to jump over from there to see how we're doing here. Okay, let's go to page 100. First paragraph in 100, it says, both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. How many of you read that and think that they're telling you always be working with a new guy? So I've heard people say that, but that's been really hard because you'll work with 1,000 to get 10 to stick. Right? So then, whatever. Depends on how serious they are, I suppose. But anyway, the reality for us is the new man lives within me. He thinks better than I do. He acts better than I think. And so I'm going to walk consciously with the new man every day, because if I do not, I'll act more like Joe, the one who wants to die, than God, the one who wants to live. Just a fact. And I'm dependent. Okay. So, if you persist, remarkable things will follow. Those of you that are students of that other book, if you'll stay in service, signs and wonders follow you. How many of you know that to be true? We do know that to be true. Guys, you're sitting in a sign and wonder. Karen's here tonight. Mike's in the room. Woody's in the room. Lots of people here know where we came from. We didn't come from a place that buys hotels and puts people out of incarceration in it. You're sitting in a sign and wonder. You're sitting in an act of faith. Plain and simple, identity, not qualification. That's what built this place. Okay. So, when we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. How many of you have come to that conclusion? I did not plan for this. There was a real crooked path to here. Right? Okay. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. Claim that promise, no matter how dark you think it is for you at any given time. I came up homeless. I encountered this power. I was still homeless. Life doesn't change outwardly very much when you're homeless. But I was instantly new. My perspective shifted. And I'm telling you, I was made new in that moment, and then I walked into my newness. Yes? So give yourself a chance to walk out of the muck and into the destiny, right? That's probably enough. Next week we're going to do like the whole downer thing with the first step. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.